Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Brilliant. I feel so privileged to be here amongst all of you, so thank you so much for the invite and thank you so much for the talk. I loved what Abbas said, keep going, never fail, never give up. Okay, that's going to be the essence of my talk. So I've been here in Toronto for the last few days, and the topic that I've had is create your ultimate life. And that's been the topic for the last few days. And what I'm going to do today is the session is going to carry on that, because I feel that only when we have the ultimate lives ourselves, then can we give that to our kids to then empower them to become the future. Okay. So the last time I was here was about 10 years ago, and I always said to my wife that if ever we were going to go somewhere else to live, Toronto would be the place. Really, really love this place, and you're really, really blessed to be living in a place like this. So thank you again for the invite. So I've known Sister Sakina for some time, and the one thing which I find amazing is her passion to be able to want to change people's lives. Not just you, but the whole Smile team. And it takes a special group of people to be able to put on an event like this at such a short period of time. So let's just give them a massive clap up. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so I wanted to kick off by something which is very important for me. So let me kick off with a story. So once there was this boy who was actually sitting in the park. He seemed quite upset, and there was an old man, and his name was John. And John walked up to this boy, and he said, what's wrong? You seem upset, you seem a bit down, you seem a bit depressed. How is it that I can help you? And the boy said, I'm just a bit lost in life at the moment. I just don't know what to do. Maybe you're feeling like that sometimes. I'm just a bit lost. I'm not sure what to do, and I just feel a bit down. John said to him, look, I can help you. I know exactly what is it that you need. So he said, what I want you to do is come and meet me in the forest tomorrow morning at sunrise. And the boy goes, look, you said you can help me, right? But I don't want to come in the forest at sunrise. He goes, look, just trust me. And he said, be here. So morning comes, and they turn up. And see, John was a lumberjack, so he cuts down trees. So what John did is he had an axe, and he said, this is my axe, and he gave the boy an axe, and he said, this axe is for you. And the boy's like, why are you giving me an axe? And he said, look, what we're going to do is from sunrise to sunset, we're just going to cut down trees. That's what we're going to do, and the person who has the most amount of trees cut at the end of the day wins. And the boy goes, oh, hold on, look, I didn't come to help you work, you said you were going to help me. And John said, no, I'm asking you to do this because I know it's going to help you. And the boy goes, look, I'm younger than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm fitter than you, I'm more agile than you, so obviously I'm going to win. And John goes, look, just trust me, I know what I'm doing. And the boy said, okay, fine. And then they started cutting. So hour by hour by hour, they started cutting. And the young boy knew that he was winning because he was just going really fast. And John, every hour, John used to take a break for 10 minutes. And the boy said, look, it's obvious I've won. So evening comes, and they count all their trees. And to the surprisement of the boy, John actually won. He actually cut down more trees. And the boy got angry. He said, look, I'm younger than you, I'm more agile than you, I'm more stronger than you, I'm fitter than you. So how is it that you managed to actually cut down more trees than me? And John sits down with him, and he puts his arm around his neck like a father would to a son. And he goes, look, do you know that break I was taking every hour for 10 minutes? I was sharpening my axe. And sometimes in life, I think that we do the same thing over and over and over again, right? But we expect different results. That if we want to create a better life for us and for our children, then we need to do something else. If we want to have a special life, we've got to do something special. So how many of you, show of hands, how many of you are here because you actually want a better life for your children than you've had for yourselves? Show of hands? Okay. How many of you are here because you actually want to leave this world in a better place than how you found it? Show of hands? Wonderful, brilliant. So we're in the right place. But the one thing is that if we want to leave this world in a better place than how we found it, if we want to be able to empower our kids, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are empowered ourselves first. Once we are happy, then we can actually give that to our children. There's no way that we can get our children to be happy if we're not happy ourselves. And what's that about? It's about wearing our oxygen mask on first. So what do I mean by that? Is, you remember the story, you walk inside the plane, and you sit down, and what the air crew say to you. The air crew say that if turbulence happens, the oxygen masks are going to come down. And what they say is they say that you put your mask on first, and then give your mask to the person next to you. And you say, no, hold on. I'll give it to my son first, or my daughter first, or my wife or my husband first. But the answer is no. They say you put it on yourself first. And the question is why? Because they know that if you don't have your own mask on first, and if you're struggling for oxygen and if you can't breathe, how are you going to put it on the person next to you effectively? So what it becomes about you putting your mask on first, you having your happiness mask on first, because only when you have it, then we can actually give it. But sometimes what we say is, you know what, we look for all of this in other places. So we said, you know what, I'll be happy when this happens, or I'll be happy when this happens, but we look for it everywhere, but the truth is sometimes the answer's actually within. So just imagine this, imagine being at home, and you're about to pick your keys up, your car keys, and all of a sudden the lights went off, and your keys dropped, and you looked around for your keys, and you just couldn't find them, because the lights are off. And then you saw the light on outside, and you said, hold on, why am I looking here where the light's off when there's a light on outside? So you walk outside, and you start looking for your keys. And the neighbor comes, and the neighbor says, what are you doing? You say, I've lost my keys. And he says, well, let me help you. You say, okay, great. So then he starts helping you look for the keys. Half an hour into it, he's like, where are your keys? Are you sure you dropped them here? And you say, no, I dropped them inside my house. So he goes, then why are you looking out here? And you say, but the light's on out here, right? And the light's off inside. And isn't that sometimes what we do in life? Isn't that sometimes what we do? We look everywhere for everything, but truthfully when it actually lies within. So let me tell you about me. Let me tell you when I got my oxygen mask on. So I'm a dental surgeon by profession, as Sakina mentioned, and in 2016, my life took a bit of a crazy turn. So I was actually leaving one of my clinics, and I had a call from a lady called Lucy. And what Lucy does is Lucy actually looks after the NHS Trust back in London. So that's our National Health Trust, which is a health trust. And she said to me, look, Mahmood, I need to tell you something, but I want to make sure that you're sitting down. And I said, okay, what is it that you want to tell me? And she said, look, that things are a bit strange at the moment, that we're having some funding cuts in the area. And because of the funding cuts, what's had to happen is we've had to put all the names of the clinics in a hat, and then we've had to pull out the names of five clinics, and your name was one of them. And you know, normally when your name gets pulled out of a hat, it's a good thing, right? But this time it wasn't. She said, what this means is we've actually got to cut your funding for your clinic. And what that meant is for me that my business had to close down overnight. Okay? In one night, everything closed. And this was a business which was worth about £650,000. That's about $1 million Canadian. A business had taken 7 years to build up, closed overnight. And you know, when's the last time that one day changed your life? And my kids were pretty young then, and I got home and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how things were going to work out. I got worried. I didn't know what I was going to do. And as the days went on, things started getting a bit worse. I wasn't depressed and I wasn't okay. I was kind of in the middle. And whenever things got really bad for me, the one person I always used to go and speak to was my father. And when I went to speak to my father, I explained to him what had happened. And Dad said, look, I've got 3 bits of advice for you. Dad said, number 1, never, ever, ever give up on your dreams. No matter what's happening in your life, never give up on your dreams and your goals. I said, okay, fine. Dad said, number 2, never stop serving people. Just because something's going on in your life right now doesn't mean you stop serving people. Never, ever stop serving people. Because Dad said, when you can help enough people get what they want, then you will be able to get anything you want. I said, okay, fine. And Dad said, number 3, that the dots will connect down the line. That whatever you're going through in your life right now, I understand that it's really bad, but later on you'll realize that this event in your life happened for a reason. There's a reason why it happened. How many of you may have had something really, really bad happen in your life many years ago, and it was the worst thing ever, but later on you realized it was the greatest gift? Yeah, that it turned you into the man or woman you are now. It gave you the strength you needed. So I didn't know what to make of that advice, so I left. But when I left, my dad gave me a book. And it was a book called Habits 101. And I went home and I read this book, and what this book showed me is that there's 1% of people, the entrepreneurs, okay, the people who really do make it in life, in anything, okay, 1% of people hit their goals. 1% of people. And this 1% of people, they have a daily habit. There's something they do every single day, early in the morning. And it's normally related to health. So I said, okay, fine. So I said, look, I haven't got anything to lose, so let me find something I can do. So I used to run, but I never used to run every day. But I said, from tomorrow morning, I'm going to run every single day between 5 and 6 a.m. Before my wife's awake, before the kids are awake, before the phone goes off. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I started. And guess how it felt on day one? How did it feel on day one? It's horrible. Yes, exactly, it was horrible. And I thought day two would be easier, but it wasn't. And it just got worse and it got worse. But what happened is over time, what it allowed me to do is allowed me to focus on myself. It gave me some me time. And what I realized when I was out there running, it allowed me to focus on me. And it didn't solve my problems, but I understood that that was my time. And all of a sudden, I found my way to cope. That whatever problem you give me, through my running, I'm able to cope with it. So I threw it out there in the world. I said, you know, Allah, chuck me any problem you can throw me in life because I can handle it, right? I found my coping mechanism. And when you throw something out there in the world, guess what the world does? Yeah, it throws it back, right? It replies. So I remember, it was the 10th of May, 2016. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and my mum calls me. And my mum normally doesn't call me on a Tuesday afternoon because she knows I'm at the clinic, but this time she did. And what she said is Dad had been taken to hospital. Now, I knew it couldn't, well, Dad was a speaker, as you know. Dad came here to reside as well. And, you know, since January then, Dad wasn't able to speak. Dad had a very, very, very bad cough. But just a month before, I was at the consultants with Dad. And what the consultant says, look, we don't know what's going on, but we don't think it's very bad. So come back in summer, we're going to run some tests and everything should be okay. So I knew it wasn't going to be that bad. So I rushed to the hospital, and then Dad's lying there on a hospital bed with an oxygen mask on him. But Dad looked well, okay? So I knew everything was going to be okay. And what happened is the evening came. And in the evening it was just me and my dad in the room. My mum's sister and wife had gone home to get Dad's clothes. And the consultant walks in. Okay? And I remember this guy. He looked like he was 194 years old. Okay? The guy, and he walks in and he said to me, Mahmood, what's the pathway? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, look, tell me, what do you want us to do? We need to know. And he said, look, come outside. And he pointed outside, and the distance between from where we were to the door was from here to there. And I walked. And this walk felt like it went on forever. And I got outside and he said, look, things have changed. We can't explain to you why. We don't know. But Dad's become a very sick man. Very sick man, and we have no reason. We just don't know why it's happened. But he said, do you know there comes a time in your life when you have to get your loved ones, your near ones, your dear ones? Because this is that time. And I was shocked because I didn't know what to do. And it was like, have you ever felt wherever you've kind of come out of your body and you're looking at yourself? Have you ever felt like that before? Yeah, and that's how I felt. And I got my mom, I got my sister, I got my wife, and I sat down with them and I told them that we could be losing the rock of our family. I went home that day, and the only way I knew how to cope was through my running. So that night I got my trainers on, and all night I just ran and I ran and I ran. See, but what the running allowed me to do is the running allowed me to focus the next few days on my father rather than on me. And I remember it was Sunday, the 15th of May, 2016. And have you ever woken up and something just doesn't feel right? Yeah? Okay. So I went for a run, and then I rushed to the hospital. It wasn't visiting hours yet. But the nurse said, Mahmood, I'm really happy you've come in because Dad hasn't had a good night, so come and see him. So I went to see Dad. And Dad had a CPAP mask on him. What a CPAP mask is, it's a mask which blows really fast oxygen on you, okay, so you can't speak. So Dad goes to me, get me a piece of paper and a pen. So I brought Dad a piece of paper and a pen, and what Dad wrote on this changed our life forever. And Dad said, it's my time to go. That's it, I'm out of here. That's it, it's my time to go. It's time to go and meet Allah. And I've got this piece of paper at home right now. And I said to Dad, no. I said, no way. I said, there is so much that we've still got to talk about. There's so much unfinished business, so much we've got to do. Dad said, no. You've had your time for that. Because this is it. And Dad said, I give you till 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And then I'm out of here. And I said, Dad, there is so... And Dad goes, no. And you know, in your life, how many times do you put something off for tomorrow? For tomorrow, for tomorrow? What if your tomorrow never comes? And Dad said, I'm out of here at 4 o'clock. And Dad died that day at 6. 2 hours after he said he would. And when Dad passed away, each and every member of our family was holding Dad's hand while he passed from this world to the next. And as the days went on, and as I reflected on Dad's life, you know, there were two very, very, very important messages for me which came out of Dad's life. Number one, that when Dad passed away, Dad had a life of no regret. Dad did everything he wanted to do. Dad was happy to go on that day. In my life up till that point, I was full of regret. I was in a career I didn't like. I loved it initially. For the first 7 years, I loved it. For the last 7 years, I hated it. But I was in there. Why? Because I didn't know what else I was going to do. I wanted to speak. I wanted to inspire. I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how to do it. I had a stutter. I wasn't able to speak. And people said, you can't leave your profession. I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? Obviously, I can't leave it. I had that little voice in my head saying, no, Mahmood, you can't do that. You're not good enough. You're a dentist. Why are you? Have any of you have that voice in your head saying you're not good enough? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, fine. Right. And I said that that's the day when I've got to change. That's the day when everything in my life has to change, because I want a day when I can leave like my dad, having no regrets in this world. And you know, the second lesson I learned from Dad's death was that you know, Dad was right. The dots connected perfectly. That, you know, if I didn't lose my business, I wouldn't have found the coping mechanism to deal with my father's death. But the dots connected further, that if my father didn't die, I wouldn't be here with you right now. Okay? And the question is, you know, why is it that I'm sharing this with you? Why? And do you know why? Because I don't want you to have any regrets. And do you know what I did after Dad died? I went and met so many people who were at the end of their life. And what I asked them is, what advice can you give me? Moving on from here, if you had to live your life again, what advice would you give me? What would you do differently? And everyone I spoke to, do you know what they said? They all started with 2 words. 2 words they started with. I wish. I wish. I wish. And no one said, I wish I'd made an extra 100,000 that year. No one said, I wish I'd had a better car. No one said, I wish I had better clothes. Do you know what each and every one said? I wish I'd led a life true to me. A life not governed by other people's expectations of me. I wish I'd led a life true to me. And do you know what? The first thing which we need to do is, if we look in this room, that each and every one of us in this room, to some extent, we're governed by someone's expectation of us. It may be our spouse. It may be our child. It may be our friends. But there's going to come a time when you won't care about what anyone thinks about you, but that day's going to be too late. And if we're going to start this conversation about empowering our kids for the future, maybe we start empowering ourselves. That the first thing is, if we're so concerned about what other people are going to think about us, how can we even start to impact our child's life? So can I get everyone to stand up for a moment? Can everyone just stand up? Everyone stand up, and can you just close your eyes? Can everyone close their eyes? That imagine if today you found out it was your last day. Imagine if those doors on the sides were locked and you weren't going to leave here. And that's it, this is it. Imagine if today was your last day. Imagine if you only had a few hours left. What would you do? What truth would you share? What story would you tell? Who would you pick up the phone and call? Who would you apologize to? Would now be the time you tell your spouse, I love you? Would now be the time you tell your kids, I'm proud of you? Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. There's something coming for all of us, and it's called death. And you can use it in one of 2 ways. You can use it, and it can scare you like hell. Or you can use it as the biggest fuel to your fire you can ever have. Whatever you are going to do, if it's your last day, Maybe we start with that today. Maybe we start with that today. See, because only when we take out other people's opinion of us can we grow. And it's only when we grow can we then begin to impact the lives of our children in the future. So maybe it's time we got our mask on today. And maybe today is the day we changed. And maybe we looked at life in a different way. Because there's something coming for all of us. And why can't we learn from the people who've come before us? And why can't we change things for ourselves? So thank you. Have a seat, everyone. So what I want to do is I looked and I saw, how is it? What can I do? What knowledge can I pass to you? What is it that I can do? How is it that I can help you to be able to bring up our children in the best way possible? So what I thought is, if I was gonna, what information would I give to myself if I was starting over? What would I say to my younger self? If I had a child right now, what would I do? What would I impart on them? But the first thing is that before I can give it to them, I need to make sure I live this life. I need to live this life myself. So there's 6 things I want to talk to you about. 6 bits of information which inshallah I want us to be able to put inside ourselves first, and then we can give this on. So the first thing which I want to talk about is the ability for us to trust ourselves. The first thing is where we actually begin to trust ourselves. So I was speaking at a business event in LA about last November. And when I was there, I heard about a guy who was in the room. He was a coach. And what I heard about him, that this guy's name's Eric, that he charges people over there to mentor them one-to-one for a year. He charges just over €1 million, which is about what? That's about 1.6, 1.7 million Canadian per year. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, how can a guy be able to command that much? And what's the difference between him and me? Why is it that I can't command that much? So I said, I've got to go and meet this guy. I have to go and meet this guy. So I found him on Facebook, and I tried to friend him on Facebook. And he accepted my friendship, but I couldn't message him, he just wouldn't reply. And every time I went to speak to him in the hall, everyone was around him. So I never got to speak to him. And every evening when I tried to find him, there were so many people around him that I never got to meet him. And on the last night, I was coming back from dinner with my friends. And it was about 1:30, it was 1:20 in the morning. And I said, I'm just going to go for a walk. I don't know why. I just said, let me go for a walk. And I went for a walk. And guess who I saw? I saw him sitting there talking to one person. And I thought, wow, things happen for a reason in life, right? So I said, look, I have to go and speak to him. I have to find out. So I went up to him and I just stood there and I stood in front of him while he was talking to this other person. And he looked up and thought, what a weirdo probably, right? What are you doing? And I said, look, Eric, I've been trying to get hold of you the whole week. And I'm flying back to London tomorrow morning, and whatever happens, I'm going to speak to you. I'm not going to move until you speak to me. And he looks at me, and he looks at his watch. It's about 1:25 in the morning. And he said, you need to speak to me now. I said, yeah, I'm not moving until I speak to you. And he said, go and have a seat over there. So I went and have a seat. I thought it would take 5 minutes. He took 55 minutes. So 2:30 a.m., I've got a flight in the morning, and then I go and see him. And he goes, what is it that you want? And I'm like, I don't know what I want, but all I want to ask you is that I heard that this is what you do, and I want to know how is it that you're able to charge this much? Because I want to be able to do this for myself, but I don't know what's so special about you. How is it that you can do that? And he goes to me, have you read my book? I said, no, I didn't know you had a book. He goes, okay, here's the link, buy it. Okay, fair enough. So bought his book straight away off Amazon. He goes, read this on your flight back tomorrow, and next weekend, I'm going to be in London, come and meet me. I said, okay, brilliant, fine, I'll do that. So I went home, and I read his book, And a week later, he came there, and I went to meet him. And we had this conversation, because you've read my book? I go, yes. He goes, what do you think? I go, brilliant. And he asked me a few things about it. And then he said, look, Mahmood, why is it that you've come to me? And I said, look, this is the journey I'm on, and I want to be able to do what you do. I want to be able to command as much wealth as you can. Why? Because for me, wealth was important, because I knew that using that amount of wealth, I can change a lot of lives. I can build mosques, I can build houses, I can do a lot, not just for my family. But I really do feel that, wealth is important if looked after well. And he said, okay, cool. And he said, do you have anyone in your life right now who's a coach or a mentor to you at this level who can allow you to get there? And I said, no. He said, well, then you need me. I'm like, yeah, obviously, but I can't, because what you charge and what I can afford, there's no way. He goes, what if I did you a deal? He said, look, I actually have a group that I coach, and it's at a much lower price point, but even lower than $1 million is quite a lot, right? So he says, it's at a much lower price point, but how does that sound to you? And I said, what are we talking about? And he told me a figure. And I was like, I can't do anything like that. And he said, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, no, hold on. There is something. I said, do you know what? When my father passed away, my father left me some money. And everything which you're asking me for is exactly how much my father left me. And he goes, stop. And he said, stop. And he goes, Mahmood, you've got such an attachment to money that you'll never be able to let go of it. He said, your father's your father and your money's your money. And you've put them two together. And you need to learn to let go. And the moment you let go, your life will change, because you're so emotionally attached to money. He goes, money comes and goes. Money comes and goes. But he goes, your time will never come back. He goes, you want to make an impact in this world? You want to do well? You can never buy time back. I go, okay, cool. I understand that. I said, I'm in. He said, okay, cool. You're in. And he said, because you said yes to me now, because you took great, big action, I'm going to give you something extra. You're going to come with me to Paris next week, and I'm going to put you in an extra session. I'll go, great, brilliant. Okay, that's all done. But I looked at him, and I said, but do you promise me that you'll be able to find me the kind of clients who will be able to pay me this much, because at the moment I'm charging this much? And he looked at me, and he poked and he pointed on my chest, and he poked me, and he said, look, Mahmood, you already know where they are. You just need to find how to look. And he said, it's all in yourself. You've got it. 3 months after I started with him, I made twice as much back as I invested in him. But the reason is because he had more belief in me than I had in myself. And what I realized that day is that someone can take you to a place within yourself which sometimes you can't get to by yourself. And sometimes you need to believe in someone else's belief in you until your own belief kicks in. And for me, what I realized is I need to be that father for my kids. I want to be the kind of guy, the kind of father who believes in them more than they believe in themselves, because that's what we need to do. And the first thing I want all of us to do is understand that we need to believe in our children even more than they believe in them. Because that's what's going to allow kids to be amazing. I remember last August, I went to Dubai. I was going to jump out of a plane. The reason I jumped out of the plane was because I was leaving my clinic. And for me, that was the jump into the new chapter of my life. And I made a video, it's on YouTube. And that was the whole reason I did it. And when I was on the ground and I got my parachute on, my instructor was with me. And what he said to me is, Mahmood, I need you now to trust me, okay? This next half an hour is going to be very important, but I need you to trust me. I said, cool, I trust you. He goes, you do whatever I say? I said, 100%, I'll do whatever you say. He said, okay, fine. So then we went up. And at this point, I wasn't nervous. But at 8,000 feet, they opened the latch, okay? And I'm like, wow, this is quite high. And then for the next 5,000 feet, they're just climbing. So they say, when we hit 13,000 feet, the light's going to go from red to green. You go stand by the door, and on the count of 3, you jump. Okay, fine, we're going to do this, right? So 13,000 feet, light goes green. I go to the door. I'm okay, on the 3, I'm going to jump. 1, 2, and he pushes me. And he pushes me out of the plane on the count of 2. And at that point, I've just no idea what's going on, and you're free falling at 99 miles an hour, and it's just a crazy world out there. And all of a sudden, you open your parachute, and you're like, wow, okay, and you just see the whole world underneath you, and you think, wow, what an amazing journey this is. And I go to the floor, I go, what did you do? Why did you push me on 2? He goes, you trusted me, right? And I said, yes. He said, look, I know that if I'd asked you to count to 3, after 3 you'd have done that and stopped yourself. So the only way that I could have got you out is by pushing you. He goes, you know what? I believed in you more than you believed in yourself at that point. And I thought, wow, that's true. So key number 1 is we need to believe in our children more than they believe in us. Okay? We need to believe them more than they believe in themselves. That's it. Because when we can do that, we begin to unlock a very special part of our kids. And if we want to bring up our kids for the future and give them a great life, then we need to start here. But the thing is that there is no way in the world where we can begin to believe in our kids if we don't believe in us. No way. There is no way that we can believe in our kids if we don't believe in us. You know, there has been studies in the US which have been done, which I explained the last few days. That, you know, parents who work late, there's no effect on their kids. We may feel bad that we do it, but there is no effect on the kids. But parents who go to jobs they hate, 64% of their kids turn out to be bullies. And the question is why? What makes a bully a bully? A bully becomes a bully because he's insecure about himself and he takes his insecurities out on people. And the only way that these insecurities are built in is because we as parents pass these insecurities on. Okay? So what if the one thing we could do is actually break those insecurities? What if our kids could see how happy we are? You know, what if our kids can actually see how happy we are? How much sometimes do we complain in front of our kids? How many times, how many times do our kids listen to us complaining about our jobs? You know, we kind of sing that It's Friday song. What about if we just enjoyed what we did? How many times do we complain about millennials? But you know, the people who complain about millennials are the actual people who brought them up. Have you ever noticed that, right? Yeah, the people who brought them up. What about, when we go to Starbucks and we're standing there in line for our coffee, if we have the ability to go to Starbucks and buy a coffee, you're in the top 8% of the world. And then, do you know what? We complain because the barista puts the wrong milk in our coffee. Oat milk instead of soy milk. Our kids see us complaining about these things. What about if we just realized how lucky we are? And what about if we took that and then we gave that to our kids? That's step number 1. Let's begin to trust ourselves. Because when we trust ourselves, then we can begin to show our kids how much we, number 1, trust them, and number 2, how much we believe in them. Because just remember, you can take your kids to a place within themselves which they'll never be able to get to by themselves. And let yourself be that belief for them which they need to get to the next stage of their life. Point number 2. Point number 2 is break the rules. And when I mean break the rules, I don't mean break the law, I don't mean break the religious rules, I'm not saying that. I mean let's break society's norms, right? That back in London, wherever, I guess the same here, that in the Khoja community you can have 4 jobs, okay? Doctor, dentist, accountant or failure, right? They're the 4 you can have, right? But what about allowing our kids to actually pursue what they really want to do? What about allowing them to unlock their passion? There's this big thing about unlock your passion, right? Find your passion, find your passion. What is it all about? What it means is, if you want to be successful in a time like now, you got to be able to work hard. And the gateway to working hard is doing what you love. Because if you don't love what you do, you're never going to do well in it. Because you'll never work hard enough. There'll always be someone who's going to outwork you. There's always going to be someone who outworks you. So what can you do? The thing is, find what you love to do and then go after that. But it's not enough just to love what you do. It's not enough to find your passion. What you need to be able to do is find your passion and get so good at it. That if you want to be a basketball player, are you willing to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and do free throws? Thousands of free throws every morning, like Michael Jordan, like LeBron, okay, like Kobe. Are you willing to put that much work into it? So number 1, it's about unlocking passion. But then number two, it's about working at that. There have been so many studies done around the world to show that imagine if you had 100 hours. Where would you focus it? Between where you're bad at, what you're okay at, or what you're good at? Show of hands, how many people would focus most of their time on what they're bad at so they can actually become good at that? How many people? Okay. How many people focus their time on what they're okay at? Okay. How many people, show of hands, would actually focus most of the time on what they're brilliant at? Okay, fine. So the studies have been done, and when you look at the uber successful people, most of them say out of those 100 hours, 90 of them they'll spend on what they're good at. Why? Because when you spend time on what you're bad at, the only thing you'll become is okay. When you spend time on what you're okay at, you become great. When you spend time on what you're great at, you become phenomenal. So the key to life is focus on your strengths. But a lot of the time what we teach our kids is, let's do the things you're not good at. I'm not talking about school, I'm talking about outside of there. Focus on your weaknesses. No, leave your weaknesses completely aside. In November, I shared the stage with Steve Wozniak. Okay? Steve Wozniak is a co-founder of Apple. He met Steve Jobs in 1971 and then they started up Apple in 1975. And Steve Wozniak told me a great story about him and Steve Jobs. He said, there's this conversation I had with Steve, and he's talking about Steve Jobs. And he said, there's a great conversation I had when I said to Steve Jobs that, because Steve Wozniak was the tech guy behind Apple. He made all the tech, the iPod, the iPad, he's the one behind it. And Steve Jobs wasn't a tech guy at all. So he said to Steve Jobs, what do you do? You're not a coder, you're not a programmer. You're not a gamer. What is it that you do? And the answer which Steve Jobs gave was phenomenal. Jobs said that musicians play the instruments. He goes, I play the orchestra. Okay? And I loved that. Do you know why? Because he knew enough about himself. He knew what he was good at. He knew that he was a guy who builds teams. He's a people person. And what we need to do is understand the biggest gift you can ever have is self-awareness, understanding about yourself, your likes, your loves, your hates, your goals, whatever it is that you want. Because a lot of the time we don't know what we want. There's a great philosopher called Cooley who says, I am not what I think I am not what you think I am what I think you think I am. Okay? I am not what I think I am not what you think I am what I think you think I am. Okay? That we live our life based on what we think other people think of us. But what if we could actually have that self-awareness? What if we could break the rules? What if we could get out of the box? What if we could actually just think outside the box? In a faraway land one day, there was this man who had borrowed money to actually start up a business. The business wasn't going too well, and he needed to pay this money back to this loan shark. Now this loan shark, he wasn't a nice guy at all. And this loan shark said, look, I'm giving you a week, and if you don't pay me this money, you're going into prison. And the old man didn't know what to do. The old man said, there's no way I'm going to pay you. And the loan shark said, okay, fine, okay. I have one other option. This old man had the most beautiful daughter in the village. Okay? So the loan shark said that if you can't pay me back, it's fine, let me marry your daughter. And the old man said, no way, you are not going near my daughter. Okay? And the daughter was quite worried at this point as well, right? But the daughter said, do you know what? My father sacrificed so much for me when I was younger. So what if I do this for you? And father said, no, leave it. Let me go to prison instead. And the loan shark said, okay, fine, let's do this. Okay? He goes, do you see on the floor that there's all these white and black stones? That in my bag, I'm going to pick up a white stone, I'm going to pick up a black stone, and I'm going to put them both inside this bag. If you pick out the white stone, what that means is your father goes free, and I won't marry you, and the debt's written off. But if I pick up the black stone, your father goes free, but I get to marry you. And the daughter's like, I've got a 50-50 chance here, right? And he's my father, so let me go for it. So the man goes to the floor to pick up the stones. And the daughter sees that this guy, he actually picks up 2 black stones and he puts them in the bag. And she's like, oh my God, 2 black stones, right? So at this point in life, she's got 3 options. Number 1, she can say, no, I'm not going to pick any stones. But if she didn't pick any stones, her father would go to prison, right? Number 1. Or she can tell everyone that, look, this guy's a crook, he picked up 2 black stones. But in front of this whole crowd who are looking, he would never admit it. And he would put the father into prison anyway. And the third option is that she can actually pick up the black stone and she can actually give herself to save her father. But maybe there's a 4th way. So do you know what she did? She went to pick out a stone and she fumbled and she dropped the stone. And the guy goes, what have you done? You've dropped the stone. She goes, no, I'm sorry, but it's okay. I'm sorry, I was clumsy, I dropped the stone. But it's easy to tell which stone I dropped. Because if we look inside the bag, whichever colors there's in there, the other one will be the one I dropped. So they open the bag, and what stone is in there? There's a black stone. She goes, obviously then I picked up the white stone. Okay? There's always another way. Okay? And what if we just sometimes thought outside of the box? That for our kids, there's a lot more they can do. That let's allow them to grow into their passion. Let's really, really unlock them. Let's find out what they're good at. Because you know what? When you're good, if the world is full of people who are living within their gift, then we'll make a great world. But right now, a lot of the mental health issues we have in our community especially are because of unhappiness. And even out there in the wider world. And a lot of that is tied into how much we hate or love our job. Why? Because 70% of our life is spent there. Now, more than 70% of our life will be spent in our job. So if we ask our child to do something based upon what we want them to do, because sometimes our own insecurities, we want to go and tell our friends that my son's a doctor, right? But in the end, it makes us happy, but it never makes them happy. And the way this plays out long term is that when they're unhappy, down the line, then they blame you. And then the relationship breaks down. So what if we just allowed them to do what they love to do? And what if we could support them? What if we could help them grow? So my next thing is that let's think outside the box. Let's break the rules. Let's really break the rules. No matter community rules, societal rules, break them. Let our kids do what they really, really want to do. Number 3, that how is it that we look at failure? That in life sometimes we look at failure as such a bad thing. That we said, you know, I failed, I can't do it anymore, that's it, it's over. But what if we actually understood what failure is really about? What if we understand that failure is just Allah's way of just kind of nudging us in a different direction? That look at all of the uber successful people around us, even our ulamas and people like that. Do you know how many times they failed? But they look at failure as something totally different. They don't look at failure as actually failure. Now look at people like Walt Disney, right? Walt Disney, Disneyland you've got around here, right? He went to speak to 300 banks. And 300 banks said, no, who would want a theme park? And the 301st bank said, okay, fine, we'll invest in you. 300. What about Howard Schultz, the guy who owns Starbucks? Okay, 296 banks he went to, 296 VCs he went to ask for funding. And do you know what people said? Who wants to go and drink coffee in a shop when you can drink coffee at home? But he believed in it. Look at Elon Musk. Everyone knows Elon Musk, right? SpaceX, Tesla, PayPal. 2 of his rockets blew up, and if the 3rd one blew up, he would have been out of business. But he understood that the first 2 showed him a way how not to do it. And then the 3rd one worked. What about Edison? Edison with a light bulb, right? We've all heard this. Depending on what stories you hear, between 1,000 and 10,000 failures. 10,000! But do you know what his why was, why he did it? He didn't do it to make a light bulb, he did it to light up the world. That's different. When you've got a massive why, you can do it. Steve Jobs was sacked from Apple early on. And do you know sometimes what we say? If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, right? If it's meant to be, Allah will give it to us, right? Really? Really, is it like that? Do you know what Imam Ali says? Imam Ali says there's 2 parts of your life, right? There's one which will be given to you no matter where you are. You're on the top of Everest, it'll come to you. But the second part is where you hustle. He didn't use the word hustle, okay? But it's the second part is where you need to go for it. That second part is locked up. And it'll only come to you when you go after it, and when you go after it, and when you go after it. It's not just going to come to you. So when we tell our kids or when we tell ourselves, do you know, oh, I tried, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's not true. It won't happen if you don't go after it. Ask yourself the question when you're going for anything, that number one, are you doing it because you've got a purpose to serve? Is it going to change people's lives? Are you doing it for service? If the answer is yes, then never, ever, ever, ever give up. Whether it's 1,000 failures. Because what if Allah has given success to you on 1,001? But if you ask yourself, am I doing it for fame or money? And it's failing, give it up. Okay? The most important distinction, and so many people ask me, when do I give up? Are you doing it for money? Are you doing it for fame? Or are you doing it for service? You're doing it for service, keep going, the money will come. Do it for fame and fortune, give it up. It's not working. What if 4 times your business failed? What if Allah gave you success on number 5? But what if you never went? Because after number 3 you gave up. What if you gave up after number 3? You know, the biggest thing we can ever have is understanding actually what failure is really about. Because a lot of times we don't see this. And we just say, do you know, I'll give up. So what if we can actually teach our kids the value of actually failing? And not just the value of failing, but how to manage failing. Imagine if I asked you to do this. This bottle of water over here, there was a teacher once, and this bottle of water here, the teacher got one of his students out, and he said, come over here. And he said, hold this bottle for a second. Easy or hard? Is it easy or hard for a second? Easy, right? Fine. He called the next student out. He goes, hold it for a minute. Easy or hard? Easy. And he kept on going. And he got up to half an hour. And by that time, this person's hand's shaking. And he said, look, same bottle of water. Same bottle of water, right? Same weight. But the longer you held it, the harder it became. And that is exactly like us. That, you know, when we hold on, these negative thoughts, when we hold on to failure for that long, it kills us inside. There's a study done which shows 2 minutes of negativity causes 4 hours of immunosuppression. We can literally kill ourselves by being negative. We can literally kill ourselves by holding on to bad thoughts. That the third thing is, what if we could actually teach our kids the value of failure? That how good failure is. That what if Allah has guaranteed you success on failure number 3, but you give up after number 2? The next one, the naysayers. That there are going to be so many people in your life who tell you something is impossible. Before 1954, there was no one who was able to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. No one could ever run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And what the doctors and cardiologists said, that if you tried to run a mile in less than 4 minutes, your heart would actually drop out of your body. Your heart would burst out of your body, you'd die. So because it was impossible, guess how many people did it? No one. No one was ever, since the history of time, able to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And in 1954, a guy called Roger Bannister said he was going to change that. In life, there's 2 ways of looking at things. There's eyesight and there's mindsight. Eyesight is when you need to see something before you believe it, but mindsight is the ability to believe something before you see it. Our whole religion is predicated on mindsight. We can't see Allah, but yeah, we believe in Him, right? Roger Bannister went out and he said, I'm going to run this mile in my mind in less than 4 minutes. And he did that. And he went out on the track. And on that day, he smashed the 4-minute mile by 2 seconds. 42 days later, a guy called John Landy ran the 4-minute mile. And 3 weeks after that, someone else did. And now every single year, thousands of people, school kids, are able to run the mile in less than 4 minutes. The question is why? How? How is it that they're able to run the mile in less than 4 minutes? What changed? It's someone's version of impossible changed, right? People will tell you that everything's impossible in your life. They'll tell you it's impossible. Why? It's impossible for them. But it's not impossible for you. And a lot of people put their own limits on you because they don't want you to grow, because they can't see. Because they can't see it for themselves, they can't see it for you. So what if we stopped? What if we stopped listening to the actual naysayers? You know, you are the average of your 5 closest friends. You're the average of your 5 closest friends. You will earn within what, 10%? You will earn 10% of what your 5 closest friends do. We need to be able to audit our circle really, really well. You know, there were 2 boys one day and they were crossing out this, they were walking across a lake. And when they were walking across this lake, all of a sudden, one fell in. It was ice, but the ice was a little bit thin in that area and he fell through. And the other boy started shouting for help, 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 because he knew that if he doesn't help his friend's going to die. And there was no way he could get his friend out. But there was no one coming to his help. So what he'd done is he saw this big tree, so he climbed up the tree, he broke this massive bit of the tree, he came down, he smashed the ice, and he pulled his friend out and he saved him. And when the paramedics came a little while later, they stood there and they said, how did such a puny little boy like this climb the tree, break off the branch, smash the ice, and pull the boy out? How did he do it? And an old man walks out of the trees and he goes, I know how he did it. And they say, how? And he said, because there was no one to tell him that he couldn't. Okay? There was no one to tell him he couldn't. And in our lives right now, how many people are there who tell us something is impossible? How many times do we tell our children that something is impossible? Just because we haven't been able to do it, just because we don't do it, doesn't mean they can't. Okay? If we want to be able to grow, if we want to be able to give our kids everything, then maybe we started lifting the lid off ourselves so we can start lifting the lid off them. You know, when your kids were younger, what did you say to them when they went to school? Did you say hang around with the drug dealers and the smokers? What did you say? Hang around with the best kids, right? Why? Because it rubs off on them. So do you not think it rubs off on us right now? That when we audit our circle, who are we hanging around with? And when we hang around with the right type of people, when we get negativity out of our life, then we'll start seeing life in a different way. You know, there was a teacher at school, and what she did is she gave all the kids a piece of paper, and she said, kids, we got an exam. Like, oh my God, exam? You haven't given us like the normal 10 months to revise, right? You haven't given us 10 months to revise. She said, no. This is an exam you're going to do now. She goes, when you turn this piece of paper over, I want you to describe everything you can see. So they turned the piece of paper over, and there's a black dot in the middle of the paper. So all of the kids, they started writing, it's a black dot, center of the paper, it's this size, it's this intensity of black. They were all about the black dot. And the teacher took all of their papers 15 minutes later, and she tore them up, and she threw them in the bin. And they're like, what are you doing? This was our exam. And she goes, I asked you to describe what's on the paper. And what you described is the black dot. But 99% of the paper was made up of white. And all you concentrated on was that one black dot. Okay? And in our lives right now, you know, what is that black dot which we're concentrating on? What black dot are we concentrating on? If you look at the amount of abundance Allah showered us with, look at everything you have. Everything. From your legs to your lungs, to your arms, to your spouse, to the money, to the house, to the car, to the oxygen you have, to the center you have, to the country you live in where you can do whatever you want. You know, what are we blessed with? But you know, sometimes we focus so much on that one black dot that how do we make this work? And the biggest thing is our kids see us do that. If we want to start empowering our kids for the future, maybe we start concentrating on the white and we stop looking at the black. And when we can do that, then really we'll be able to unlock our kids. Number 5, hard work. But there's this big thing at the moment, right? I don't want to work hard, I'll work smart. It's not about smart work, it's about hard work. Whoever you go and speak to who's actually made it, it's totally about hard work. That you need to work as hard as you can right now to make something work for you. You can't sit there. But the thing is, if we're asking our kids to do hard work, who do they look at? They look at us, right? What do we do? I've always said that whatever you want your children to do, you've got to go one step above. You want your kids to pray namaz, you've got to pray on time. Okay? You want your kids to pray on time, you've got to do one step above. You can't expect your kids to do what you do. Your kids will always do one thing below you. Always they'll do one thing below you. So, what do your kids see you doing? Do they see you watching TV all day? Do they see you working out? I'm not just talking at the office, I'm talking about at home. I'm talking about in your marriage. I'm talking about what is it that you do around the house? You want your kids to work hard? They're going to learn from us. What is your state like every day around your kids? You know, I've always said there's an energy level of between 1 and 10 in life. Where 1 is over there, 10 is over here. Most people play life over here. But you really want that amazing life, you've got to be playing life over here. And a lot of that comes down to your state. Then why is it there are some people who are full of energy and other people are so depleted of energy? When you go to your child and you speak to them, do you speak to them on energy level 1 or energy level 10? When you go to them and say, oh, Bilal, do your homework. You really think he's going to listen? You're going to bring out in the person the state you're in. That you know that, right? That if you walk in an empowering state to your kids, to your marriage, you're going to bring out the empowering part of that person. And the first thing which we can do is we need to be able to control our state. We need to be able to control our state. So what we can do is when we start going to our kids, when we start going to our family, we can unlock that part of us. That understand it's all about hard work. That none of it's about taking it easy. It's not about taking it easy. So let's teach our kids the value of hard work. And when they combine their passion with hard work, then they win. It's as simple as that. Every imam of ours, every prophet of ours, they worked hard. They did. What about if we can take that lesson to our kids? But the thing is that they will only work hard when they see us working hard. That's it. We got to be that example for them. We can't expect something from them if we don't do it ourselves. And the next one for me, this is the biggest. This is the biggest. This is give back. To be able to give back to the place which gave you the most. That what about if we could teach our children the value of giving back? That for me, my whole journey started in our community. Everything I have right now, everything, everywhere I go to speak, everything I do, everyone I coach, it all started back in my community when 3 years ago I started up a fitness class. And that was the start of the part of my new life. And what if we can show our kids the value of giving back? Not just to the community, but to the wider world as well. Because do you know what that does? Number one, it keeps them grounded, but number two, it allows them to keep in touch with their roots. Bill Gates once was having dinner with a friend of his. And at the end of the dinner, the lady came and she gave him the check. And he signed the check and gave it back to her. And she stood there. And she just looked at him. And he's like, what's wrong? She goes, you're Bill Gates, right? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, you're the richest man in the world, right? And he goes, yeah. And he said, but you tipped me $5. Last week, your daughter came in and she tipped me $500. Okay? And Bill Gates stood up. He goes up to her and goes, my daughter is the daughter of the world's richest man. I am the son of a woodcutter. Okay? Keep grounded to your roots. And when our children then give back, what it allows them to do, it allows them to start giving back. It allows them to value that so much. But the only way that that can happen is, again, if they see that through us. And my point is, when we add these 6 up, if we really want to be leaders, because that's what we need to be, right? Each and every one of us have been put on this earth to be a leader. Not just a leader at work, but a leader at home. A leader in our family. And what is a leader? A leader isn't someone who takes charge. A leader is someone who takes care of people in our charge. Big difference. And that's what a leader is all about. And when we put these 6 together, and then when we work at this, what happens is we become the leaders. And when we become leaders, then we allow our children to become leaders. But do you know the biggest key to being a leader? It's the belief that you have in yourself. That you need to be able to have belief in yourself for you to become a leader. And do you know what? Do you know what I love? When I look at the way Allah has made the earth, and when we look at the animal kingdom, the bird kingdom, and our kingdom, do you know what Allah has made? Allah has made, in the animal kingdom, who's the leader of the animal kingdom? The lion, right? But I always question that, why is the lion the leader of the animal kingdom? What's so special about the lion? The lion's a cat. Why? Why is the lion, what makes the lion the king of the jungle? You see, because every morning in Africa, there's a lion which wakes up. And the sole purpose of the lion is to catch the slowest gazelle. And every morning in the jungles of Africa, a gazelle wakes up. And the sole purpose of the gazelle is to outrun the fastest lion. And I love this. Why? Because I always question why. Why is it that the lion is the king of the jungle? What allows the lion to be king? You see, because the lion hasn't got any unique qualities. The lion's not the tallest. He's not the largest. He's not the strongest. He's not the smartest. He's not even the fastest animal in the kingdom. So why is he king? So what does that mean? Maybe that means that we don't need any unique qualities in our life to actually be leader. Maybe we can all be leaders. And why? Because the lion's not as tall as a giraffe. He's not as large as the rhino. He's not as strong as the elephant. He's not as smart as a cheetah. He's not even as fast as a hyena. So why is lion the king? That, do you know when the lion goes up to the elephant is 20 times its size and 10 times its strength. But why does the elephant listen? Why does the elephant listen to such a small cat? And do you know why? It's one thing. It's belief. How much the lion believes in himself that when the lion goes to the elephant, the lion thinks of one thing, and that's food. And when the elephant looks at the elephant believes it can be eaten. That's it. It's the elephant's thinking which keeps it small. And how does that play out over here? You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It doesn't matter what your parents did for you when you were young. None of that matters. That it's your thinking which will keep you small. And do you know the biggest way in life to actually get self-belief is through gratitude, is through being grateful for everything that Allah has given to us. And the more grateful we are, the happier we become. So what I want you to do right now, is everyone close their eyes. Everyone close your eyes, please. And I just want you to think about everything in life you can be grateful for. Everything. Just think about everything which you can be grateful for. Everything. From your arms to your legs, to your house, to your spouse, to your kids, to the money you have. Everything, everything. 30 seconds, just go, just think about everything you can be grateful for. Everything you can be grateful for. The center you have, the oxygen you have, the friends you have. I want you to open your eyes. Do you know what Allah up there says? Allah says that when you're thankful for what I give you, then I give you more. And so, how many of you, show of hands, how many of you had a bed to sleep on last night? How many of you had a bed to sleep on? Fine. How many of you had food in your mouth this morning? How many of you have got a little bit of money in your bank? It's a little bit. You're in the top 4% of the world. Top 4% of the world. How amazing is this? And what if we could wake up every morning with this level of gratitude? Do you not think our life would change? Because I think they would. That it's all about gratitude. It's all about thanking Allah for what He's given us, because then He gives us more. But do you know what happens now? Is that when you put those 6 things together, and when you really now start believing in yourself, and when you got this level of gratitude, do you know what Allah does? Allah starts giving us problems. Allah starts testing us. He challenges us. He pushes us. Why? Because this is how we grow. Because this is how we grow in life. That the next chapter of your life is going to be about growing. But the only way that we grow is through tests, is through trials. And that's what Allah does. That, you know, sometimes we don't want tests in life. We just want life to be okay. But if you want to grow, how many of you can remember a time when maybe 5 years, 10 years ago, your problems are a lot smaller than they are now? How many of you? Show of hands? Yeah. Why? It's not because your problems are easier. It's because now you're stronger. So Allah gives you biggest problems. You know, Allah tests His most amazing prophets, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Ayub with sickness and with the loss of wealth, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Yaqub with taking away his most beautiful sons, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Yusuf with false imprisonment, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Musa with a tyrant, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Nuh with 950 years worth of preaching, yet so few followers, and you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Ibrahim with the fire, you think Allah won't test you. Allah tested Ibrahim with the sacrifice of his son, and you think Allah won't test you. Understand that Allah doesn't give us problems that we can handle. Allah allows us to handle the problems He gives us. And just like when we walk into the gym and we pick up those weights and they build our muscle, mental muscle is built through problems. So let me share with you a story about this guy. Let me share with you a story about a farmer. And some of you may have heard this, but I want you to listen to it again. Why? Because every time you listen to something, you take in something new. So there was this farmer. And this farmer loved his wife so much. They'd been married 40 years. And one day, his wife got taken away from him. And he was devastated. And what he had left two things. He had his son left and a horse. And his son used to sit on the horse and he used to plow the fields every day. So they made enough money for the farmer and his son to survive. And one day, this horse ran away. And all the villagers, they came to the farmer and they said, "Oh my God, God must really not like you. First He takes your wife away, and now He takes your horse away. What have you done? What have you done to upset God so much that He doesn't like you? What have you done?" And the farmer didn't have anything to say. But you know, sometimes in your life when things get really bad, and you have two types of people, right? The people who support you and the people who don't. And do you know what the farmer did? He turned around to the villagers. He stood in front of them. He put his hands behind his back. He bent down and he said, "Maybe." And all the villagers went away. 3 days later, this horse came back. But this horse didn't come back on his own. This horse brought another 3 wild horses with him. So now the farmer is the richest man in the village. So all the villagers came back and they said, "Oh my God, God must really love you. What have you done? What have you done? What have you recited? Why is it that God loves you so much?" And it's funny, right? That at good times people come through, right? And at bad times they go away. What about the people who really stick with us, the true people? How many of them do we really have in our life? And the farmer went up to the villagers and he put his hands behind his back. He bent down. And what did he say? "Maybe." And all the villagers went away. 4 days later, the son is on the horse, on the wild horse, trying to tame the wild horse. And the wild horse picks up the son, he throws the son against the wall, and the son breaks both of his legs and he's in a wheelchair. And all the villagers come back. And they go to the farmer, oh my God, what is it? God really doesn't like you, does He? What have you done to upset Him so much? Now He's taken away your son. Your son isn't able to work. What are you going to do? Why isn't it that God likes you? And you know, at that point, the farmer had a tear in his eye. Because he thought, why are people like this? And he turned to the villagers and he put his hands behind his back and he bent down. And what did he say? "Maybe." And the villagers went away. And a week later, there's an announcement in the village that the country is going to war. But this isn't just any war, this is a war with a country 5 times the size. And every person who enters this war is going to die. And the army said that we're going to come in and we're going to get every able-bodied man and we're taking them to war. So the army comes into the village. And the army comes and they pull every single person's son. But they come to the farmer and they look at his son and they say, "No, your son's not fit for war. And they leave him there. And they go away. And all the villagers come back. And they go, oh my God, God must love you so much. Our sons have been taken to war and they're going to die. But you, God saved you, God saved your son. What is it? What have you done? The farmer's like, what do I do now? The farmer faced the villagers, put his hands behind his back, he bent down, and what did he say? Maybe. And do you know how this story ends? Do you know how this story ends? It doesn't end. This story just goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. But do you know what the moral of this story is? Is that trust the process. Allah has your back covered. That life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. And when we understand that, then we ask ourselves a very important question. That am I going through life, or am I growing through life? And when we understand that, then we stop telling Allah how big our problems are, but we start telling our problems how big Allah is. And do you know what your biggest problem is? And do you know what your biggest problem is? Is that you feel you shouldn't be having them. But what if we understood that problems are here to make us grow? Problems are here to shape our soul. Problems are here to make us into the person that we need to become. Because when we understand that, then all the pain and suffering goes away. Because we understand that our problem is our greatest gift. So next time we ask for safety, and next time we ask for ease, understand that we're actually asking for weakness. Don't ask Allah to take your problems away. Ask Allah to make you stronger. And when you can say that prayer, then you win life. Because then you understand everything. And then everything sorts out. And that's it. And you know, today, I want to show you two ways. I want to show you two ways that you can deal with any problem that happens in your life. Who would like to know that? Have a show of hands. Let's say yes. Let's get a bit louder than that. Yeah, fine. So can I ask everyone to stand up? Everyone to stand up. The first way is through gratitude, and the second is through giving. So what I want you to do is, I want you to put your hand on your heart, and I want you to close your eyes. That I want you to feel that heart beating. Feel the blood going through your body. Feel your chest opening up. And that understand that these are gifts that Allah gave us, which sometimes we're never grateful for. Every moment your heart beats, you're alive. But what if you knew the amount of beats you've got left? Every time you breathe is a gift. And what if we value this gift? Because a lot of the time we take things for granted. And do you know what, brothers and sisters? That when we take things for granted, the things we're granted get taken. And let's be grateful for everything we have. For everything. Just feel that heart. Feel those lungs. I want you to open your eyes. That, do you know what I said? I said the key to happiness was through gratitude. And why do I say that? Because if the key to happiness was wealth, then it would be the rich kids who play in the streets, but they don't, do they? The rich kids don't play in the streets. What if the key to happiness was power? Then the kings would walk the streets unguarded, but they don't. It's the simple people who walk the streets unguarded. And what if the key to happiness was fame and fortune? Then the celebrities would be the happiest, but they're not. It's the people behind the scenes. Live simply, walk humbly, love genuinely, and be grateful for everything that we have. Number one. And number two, the way to counter any problem you have is through giving. That's why we're here this evening, right? And what has Allah said to us? He goes, for every one you give me, I give you 10 back. And you know, we've all been gathered here this evening for a reason, right? We're here to smile. And what do they stand for? They're here to change the lives of children, of people, of families living with disabilities. And you know, today, when we put a hand in our pocket and when we give, you know, Allah has promised us 10 times back. But don't give with that intention. Give with the intention to serve, and you'll get more than 10 back. Because this is what it's about, right? We're a community. We're here to give. So let's make this evening the most beautiful evening we ever can. And let's serve beyond anything we ever can. Let's dig deep. Let's dig deep. And let's really, really change the lives of a lot of people. And just before I finish, I have a gift for you. That 3.5 weeks ago, yesterday, my mother had a brain hemorrhage. And the doctors told us she was going to die. And they told us to spend our last night with her, because the day after they were going to open up her head and they were going to take out some blood vessels and remove part of her brain as well. And they said that this is possibly going to be your last night with her. So we spent that last night with her. And when I went into the hospital room that day, I knew that I couldn't show Mum any sign of fear, that I knew she's going to feed off me. So I had to go in there and I had to be in the perfect state. And Mum went into surgery that morning, on a Friday morning, and it was a 9-hour operation. For weeks and weeks, I wanted to write a book, an audio book. I've been telling myself I'll do it, but I just procrastinated all the time. And when Mum went into surgery, the door closed, and I said, I've got 2 options today. What I can do is I can worry about Mum for the next 9 hours, or I can change some lives. And what I did that day is I sat down and I wrote that book, that first chapter, and I recorded it, I edited it, and it was ready to go before my mum finished surgery. And I said, if I can do this on a day like this, I never have an excuse ever in my life to ever not perform. No excuses, right? That's it. It's over. And at the end today, what I've got is I've got a link on you, and I want you to go there, and it's your gift. It's the first chapter. Please take it. And when you listen to it, I hope it can change your life. But I want you to know why it was written and when it was written. And please send me a message and let me know how it helped you change your life. So that's it, everyone. That's it, right? 2 takeaways. Number 1, gratitude. And number 2, give. That every morning when you wake up, be grateful for everything Allah has given to you, everything, because you know what? Let's concentrate on the white, let's forget about that black dot. We've all got a black dot. And the more we focus on that black dot, the bigger that black dot grows. Because where your focus goes, energy flows. We know that. So maybe today's the day we change. And the second thing is, let's dig in deep. We've all come here for a reason. We've all come here to give. That today we have the ability to change people's lives. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
So for those of you who know me, know that I don't get speechless very often. And, you know, there was a lot to take in. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do. So thank you, Dr. Mawjee. Your talk was not only motivational, inspirational, thought-provoking, but it was extremely refreshing. I think something that we don't have a chance to hear often, and something that I, for one, felt that I needed. So again, going back to, there's a reason, inshallah. And I love that you said that the best thing we can be for our children, the best version of ourselves. So we're going to conclude the program. I know you're probably very hungry. It's almost a lot of time. But I'm just going to reiterate quickly that I ask that you really dig deep into your hearts and into your pockets to give. You know, we came here today with a goal of $5,000. For some of you, you might think that's a lot. For some of you, you might think that's a little. There's about 100 people here, roughly. In order to sustain our scholarship program, at minimum, we require $5,000. And so I'm not going to hold anyone hostage, but I just ask that when the program is done, please, go into the back, meet with the volunteers, ask them questions, and please help us support this program. So I'm going to call upon Brother Hussein Molidina. Please we have a small token of appreciation.
And his son used to sit on the horse and he used to plow the fields every day. So they made enough money for the farmer and his son to survive. And one day, this horse ran away. And all the villagers, they came to the farmer and they said, "Oh my God, God must really not like you. First he takes your wife away, and now he takes your horse away. What have you done? What have you done to upset God so much that he doesn't like you? What have you done?" And the farmer didn't have anything to say. But sometimes in your life when things get really bad, and you have two types of people, right? The people who support you and the people who don't. And do you know what the farmer did? He turned around to the villagers. He stood in front of them. He put his hands behind his back. He bent down and he said, "Maybe." And all the villagers went away. 3 days later, this horse came back. But this horse didn't come back on his own. This horse brought another 3 wild horses with him. So now the farmer is the richest man in the village. So all the villagers came back and they said, oh my God, God must really love you. What have you done? What have you done? What have you recited? Why is it that God loves you so much?" And it's funny, right? That at good times people come through, right? And at bad times they go away. What about the people who really stick with us, the true people? How many of them do we really have in our life? And the farmer went up to the villagers and he put his hands behind his back. He bent down. And what did he say? "Maybe." And all the villagers went away. 4 days later, the son is on the horse, on the wild horse, trying to tame the wild horse. And the wild horse picks up the son, he throws the son against the wall, and the son breaks both of his legs and he's in a wheelchair. And all the villagers come back. And they go to the farmer, oh my God, what is it? God really doesn't like you, does he? What have you done to upset him so much? Now he's taken away your son. Your son isn't able to work. What are you going to do? Why isn't it that God likes you? And at that point, the farmer had a tear in his eye. Because he thought, why are people like this? And he turned to the villagers. And he put his hands behind his back. And he bent down. And what did he say? "Maybe." And the villagers went away. And a week later, there's an announcement in the village that the country is going to war. But this isn't just any war, this is a war with a country 5 times the size. And every person who enters this war is going to die. And the army said that we're going to come in and we're going to get every able-bodied man and we're taking them to war. So the army comes into the village. And the army comes and they pull every single person's son. But they come to the farmer and they look at his son and they say, "No, your son's not fit for war." And they leave him there. And they go away. And all the villagers come back. And they go, oh my God, God must love you so much. Our sons have been taken to war and they're going to die. But you, God saved you, God saved your son. What is it? What have you done? The farmer's like, what do I do now? The farmer faced the villagers, put his hands behind his back, he bent down, and what did he say? "Maybe." And do you know how this story ends? It doesn't end. This story just goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. But you know what the moral of this story is? Is that trust the process. Allah has your back covered. That life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. And when we understand that, then we ask ourselves a very important question. That am I going through life, or am I growing through life? And when we understand that, then we stop telling Allah how big our problems are, or we start telling our problems how big Allah is. And do you know what your biggest problem is? And do you know what your biggest problem is? Is that you feel you shouldn't be having them. But what if we understood that problems are here to make us grow, problems are here to shape our soul, problems are here to make us into the person that we need to become? Because when we understand that, then all the pain and suffering goes away, because we understand that our problem is our greatest gift. So next time we ask for safety, and next time we ask for ease, understand that we're actually asking for weakness. Don't ask Allah to take your problems away. Ask Allah to make you stronger. And when you can say that prayer, then you win life. Because then you understand everything. And then everything sorts out. And that's it. And you know, today, I want to show you two ways. I want to show you two ways that you can deal with any problem that happens in your life. Who would like to know that? Let's have a show of hands. Let's say yes. Let's get a bit louder than that. Yeah, fine. So can I ask everyone to stand up? Everyone to stand up. The first way is through gratitude, and the second is through giving. So what I want you to do is, I want you to put your hand on your heart, and I want you to close your eyes. That I want you to feel that heart beating. Feel the blood going through your body. Feel your chest opening up. And that understand that these are gifts that Allah gave us, which sometimes we're never grateful for. Every moment your heart beats, you're alive. But what if you knew the amount of beats you've got left? Every time you breathe is a gift. And what if we value this gift? Because a lot of the time we take things for granted. And do you know what, brothers and sisters? That when we take things for granted, the things we're granted get taken. And let's be grateful for everything we have, for everything. Just feel that heart, feel those lungs. I want you to open your eyes. That, do you know what I said? I said the key to happiness was through gratitude. And why do I say that? Because if the key to happiness was wealth, then it would be the rich kids who play in the streets, but they don't, do they? The rich kids don't play in the streets. What if the key to happiness was power? Then the kings would walk the streets unguarded, but they don't. It's the simple people who walk the streets unguarded. And what if the key to happiness was fame and fortune? Then the celebrities would be the happiest, but they're not. It's the people behind the scenes. Live simply, walk humbly, love genuinely, and be grateful for everything that we have. Number one. And number two, the way to counter any problem you have is through giving. That's why we're here this evening, right? And what has Allah said to us? He goes, for every one you give me, I give you 10 back. And you know, we've all been gathered here this evening for a reason, right? We're here for Smile. And what do they stand for? They're here to change the lives of children, of people, of families living with disabilities. And do you know, today, when we put a hand in our pocket and when we give, you know Allah has promised us 10 times back. But don't give with that intention. Give with the intention to serve, and you'll get more than 10 back. Because this is what it's about, right? We're a community. We're here to give. So let's make this evening the most beautiful evening we ever can. And let's serve beyond anything we ever can. Let's dig deep. Let's dig deep. And let's really change the lives of a lot of people. And just before I finish, I have a gift for you. That 3.5 weeks ago, yesterday, my mother had a brain hemorrhage. And the doctors told us she was going to die. And they told us to spend our last night with her, because the day after they were going to open up her head and they were going to take out some blood vessels and remove part of her brain as well. And they said that this is possibly going to be your last night with her. So we spent that last night with her. And when I went into the hospital room that day, I knew that I couldn't show Mum any sign of fear, that I knew she's going to feed off me. So I had to go in there and I had to be in the perfect state. And Mum went into surgery that morning, on a Friday morning, and it was a 9-hour operation. For weeks and weeks, I wanted to write a book, an audio book. I've been telling myself I'll do it, but I just procrastinated all the time. And when Mum went into surgery, the door closed, and I said, I've got 2 options today. What I can do is I can worry about Mum for the next 9 hours, or I can change some lives. And what I did that day is I sat down and I wrote that book, that first chapter, and I recorded it, I edited it, and it was ready to go before my mum finished surgery. And I said, if I can do this on a day like this, I never have an excuse ever in my life to ever not perform. No excuses, right? That's it. It's over. And at the end today, what I've got is I've got a link on you, and I want you to go there, and it's your gift. It's the first chapter. Please take it. And when you listen to it, I hope it can change your life. But I want you to know why it was written and when it was written. And please send me a message and let me know how it helped you change your life. So that's it, everyone. That's it, right? 2 takeaways. Number 1, gratitude. And number 2, give. That every morning when you wake up, be grateful for everything Allah has given to you, everything, because you know what? Let's concentrate on the white, let's forget about that black dot. We've all got a black dot. And the more we focus on that black dot, the bigger that black dot grows. Because where your focus goes, energy flows. We know that. So maybe today's the day we change. And the second thing is, let's dig in deep. We've all come here for a reason. We've all come here to give. That today we have the ability to change people's lives. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
So for those of you who know me, know that I don't get speechless very often. And you know, there was a lot to take in. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do. So thank you, Dr. Mawjee. Your talk was not only motivational, inspirational, thought-provoking, but it was extremely refreshing. I think something that we don't have a chance to hear often, and something that I, for one, felt that I needed. So again, going back to, there's a reason, inshallah. And I love that you said that the best thing we can be for our children, the best version of ourselves. So we're going to conclude the program. I know you're probably very hungry. It's almost Salah time. But I'm just going to reiterate quickly that I ask that you really dig deep into your hearts and into your pockets to give. You know, we came here today with a goal of $5,000. For some of you, you might think that's a lot. For some of you, you might think that's a little. There's about 100 people here, roughly. In order to sustain our scholarship program, at minimum, we require $5,000. And so I'm not going to hold anyone hostage, but I just ask that when the program is done, please, go into the back, meet with the volunteers, ask them questions, and please help us support this program. So I'm going to call upon Brother Hussein Molidina. Please we have a small token of